Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Today we have Frozen, the hit Broadway musical. However, it's not being this where this was filmed is not in Broadway in New York City. It was actually filmed in a theater in London, I believe, or somewhere. It's in England. It's in England. It said it at the very beginning, but I forgot what it said. But yeah, this is for an audience that doesn't necessarily get to London. I mean, get to New York City to see the Broadway performance, but I believe it is the Broadway cast, and yeah, this is if you, honestly, at this point, Frozen is part of the new era of Disney. It is part of Disney history. It is one of the most popular, if not the most popular, film financially anyway, in its history. If not, it's really dang close. They're going to come up with a third one sooner or later. But I kind of always wondered, when it comes to, I knew there was a musical, but when you take something that has so much large scale action and characters and magic, and how do you make use of that? How do you make that come to life on stage? And I'm more, I've heard Let It Go 1,000 times, just like everybody else. I'm not the kind of person who's just like, make it stop. You know what? 4-year-old wants to listen to Let It Go for the 50th time. Yes, it can be a little annoying, but they can be watching worse stuff. And Frozen is, no matter what you think of it, is a good film, and it makes a great musical. And because not only just because you get the songs you know and love or hate, but you also get a bunch of new ones as well, and a whole new cast, and you're like, well, can you really do it without Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell? Yeah, you can. The actresses who portray them, Samantha Barks as Elsa and Laura Dawkes as Anna, they're fantastic. They inherit the spirit of those characters, and even those actresses. No, they're not Idina and they're not Kristen, but and I know that each of those actresses brought a lot to each of those characters in the film, but on stage, these actresses sort of take it to a different level. They're not copying the performances. There are certain movements. There's certain, I don't know how to explain it. There's just certain things that come into play in this film, and it's not a film, but it's a musical live performance that are dead on exactly as it was in the animated version. And that's kind of neat. One of the interesting parts of this, though, is that you realize they probably filmed this maybe over a few nights, a few performances, and there's certain scenes you have the benefit of watching it this way rather than sitting in a theater, trying to eat your popcorn and keep the kids quiet and everything else, and focusing on the stage. You get cameras that sort of intrude on the performance, and they're getting real close at times. And I realize, yeah, you can do telephoto lenses and everything else. It's not that. There's literally cameras moving around the actresses, and those moments, there's no audience. There are some moments that, they had to just, they filmed them separately from the live audience performances. It had to be that way, because God knows if I paid money to watch a bunch of cameramen circle around the cast, it would take me totally out of it. And I imagine these tickets weren't cheap. So yeah, I'm thinking, you know what? It's cool because it adds an element. If you wanted to have just a stationary camera at a certain spot at the back of the theater looking at the stage, yeah, I guess that would be okay, but you have to incorporate the movement of the camera, the close-ups, the mid-shots, and some of the wide shots to get the full stage, because the stage is a thing in itself. I don't know how they do it exactly, if it's exactly like they do it in Broadway. I don't know. I don't know. Do they still have it on Broadway? I can't really, I don't know. Believe it or not, I've been to New York City more times than I can count, and I've never seen a show. Not Les Mis, not Phantom of the Opera, not even Spider-Man, the dark, whatever the dark was. I never saw that. Friends of mine did. They saw a lot of showings of that Spider-Man musical. No. But it was an experience from what they tell me. It is pretty fantastic. Nothing against the actors in that thing, but yeah, it was. So when it comes to these kind of things, the music is great. The music is fantastic. Performances. The audience, of course, applauds at the end of just some of the big knockout numbers. Of course, the ones, like Let It Go, which finishes the first act. It's broken into two acts, right about the midpoint of the actual performance, obviously. But there's a lot of new songs. I think Oaken even gets a song that I don't think was in the film. I'm pretty sure there isn't. There's a number of different songs from a number of different characters that probably didn't even exist in the cartoon. I've seen the movie a number of times, but But in this case, applause, deservedly so, for these fantastic performers, not just Anna and Elsa, but everybody is just knocking it out of the park, having a great time. And I'm hoping they're having a great time because it's entertaining for the people watching it. If you haven't figured it out, I highly do recommend this. You can probably stop watching now, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why this is good. I'm more of a person who's like, I love the behind the scenes stuff. I love the stagecraft that goes into creating this world on a stage. The stuff that people back in ancient times in Greece standing on stages or in London on a small stage performing Shakespeare could have never imagined was possible. They would have lost their minds at the things that they see that's possible in these performances. Not the least of which is the exhibition of Elsa's powers. How do you do that? Do you just sprinkle snow every so often? Do you do blue light here and there? No, there's a lot more to it. And one of the most difficult shots, and I hope there wasn't any added effects, like filmed effects, because it is an impressive shot. And it's the kind of thing that it probably looks a certain way when you're watching it in the theater, and I really hesitate to think that they did any kind of enhancement to it for this taping of it, because the transformation of Elsa, you know what it is. It's in that moment. It happens differently in the film, but in this moment, when she's singing "Let It Go," and it builds to that crescendo, you get goosebumps about it because if you know how much is behind that song, there's a moment she transforms from what you see as her as Queen Elsa to this kind of ice princess who has closed herself off from everyone for so long and has finally unleashed her power. If you don't realize this movie is a supervillain story, is a supervillain origin story. In most other cases, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby would have written this as a Ice Queen, evil person fighting the Fantastic Four kind of story. The fact that it's not is all because of who she has as a sister. So, but the big moment when she transforms is sudden. And she's wearing one dress, and at one moment, as she's moving toward the camera, it doesn't cut away. There's not a flash of light in front of her to, maybe blur the cut or just make it seem like, oh, we just cut to a different costume. It happens as you're watching it. Whatever she was wearing on top is pulled away in that moment, and her blue sparkling outfit is fully revealed, and then she pulls her braid down and then continues the song, and it's just it's, for me, it's like I said, it's a goosebump moment because I love the stage magic of it all, the performance of all those kind of things. When I was in high school, I worked a little bit with there was sort of a stagehand, kind of behind the scenes guy for musicals, but I was never asked to. I'd never tried out for it. I just sort of showed up. I just sort of inserted myself backstage and hung out with my friend until the point where I'm just like, okay. They're like, he's here, he's helping. And so he now has this job. And at one point, I had to bring out the roses for the lead actor or lead actress after the performance. So I got on stage for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why. And eventually it got to the point where I think the second year I was my friend was one of the leads. They were doing a remake of Some Like It Hot. And I had helped one of my best friends change from a man to a woman to a man back and forth because he was playing Jack Lemmon's character in Some Like It Hot. They called it Sugar, the musical. So, yeah, it was because that was Marilyn Monroe's character. Her name was Sugar. So, yeah, that. And then eventually when I grew up, I just sort of hung out inside. I got access to certain arenas where concerts were happening, and I just sort of sat there and took notes about the building of the stage and the just the sound check and everything else. And nobody kicked me out. Eventually, people just sort of got used to me being there, and I got added to the crew. So these kind of things I love, behind the scenes stuff. That's all to tell you that I love these behind the scenes experiences. And I went on to becoming a concert promoter and literally setting up concerts myself with my friends who are much more talented than me and contributed so much more. I was just sort of, again, there. But so just seeing this kind of performance come together, her powers, it's all in the lighting. It's in the surfaces you see around the stage. Behind them are all screens, in a sense. They don't look like screens, but they're all, they change color, they change shape, they change all these different things to a certain degree. They change shape to a certain degree, but all these things sort of exhibit Elsa's powers and the change of environments. And yes, things move around in order for Kristoff and Anna to cross a bridge. The stage is only so big. And so what they do is they climb up the stairs to this bridge, and the bridge starts moving across the stage as they walk, and they walk, and they walk, until you get to the other end of the bridge, and they slide down off of it. So it's still physical, hard pieces throughout. And it's just, for me, that's just freaking cool, just how they make use of the space. The whole Elsa transformation reveal is just a little bit of what they have to offer. Of course, also in Disneyland and California Adventure, at the theater there, for a time, they did do performances of Frozen because it was so popular. They did live action performances of the film in less than 45 minutes. So it was a very truncated version. I wonder if that was a test for the Broadway version that we see here. I don't know, because they use a lot of similar effects. Of course, things have transformed since then, but one of the things that has remained was the performance of Olaf. How do you make Olaf come to life? He's a cartoon snowman. And well, you have to live with the fact that there's going to be a guy standing behind a very kind of puppety. He's a puppet. He's a puppet, moving his eyes and his mouth and his body parts and things like that. And you look at him, half the time you forget there's a guy who's singing and talking as part of that role. He's not Josh Gad, but he is definitely a worthy successor in performing. He was picked for a reason. Does a great version of Olaf himself. And of course, one of the great things, I saw this actually at D23, I think this past year, and they did a really big focus on the Broadway musicals and the costuming and the music and everything else at the D23 Expo in Anaheim last year, I should say, not this year, last year. They showed what Sven, the reindeer, looked like. And that's two people, I think it's two young women who are inside of Sven as a kind of a living puppet that moving around. And it looks less like a big, oversized reindeer, but it is a little bit smaller, but it has sort of a magical element to it. It has something that lends itself better to a stage performance. So yeah, there's puppetry, there's lighting effects, the music is fantastic, the live orchestra right in there. I would have loved to have seen it, but this is the best way for you if you couldn't get to London. If you can't get to Broadway, and especially if I don't know if it's still running. You get to see these performers do, you've probably, if you're a parent and the kids grew up on Let It Go, if you grew up on Frozen, it came out 11 years ago, 2014, I think. It came out 11 years ago. You've grown up on it, or your kids are growing up on it now. Show them this. It might be a little disturbing for them at first to go, oh, this is not a cartoon. If they're old enough they can handle a musical, I think they'll get a big kick out of it. And you get to hear different songs, and you get to see a performance. And like I said, I'm going to go back to the Elsa transformation thing, just to see. I had to rewind it when that happened, because whether you like that song or not, it is a great performance from Idina and also from Samantha in this case, but it is structured so perfectly its build is perfect that it pays off audibly and visually, both in the animated and live performance view. And I'm going to tell you this right now, there is going to be a live action version of this in theaters in the next 10 years. It's just the way it is. It'll be out by 2034 probably. Just Disney's going to keep doing this unless Disney ceases to exist for some reason. It's going to happen. They're going to do this with all their animated films because money can be made and a new generation can be entertained by it. It's just the way it is. I'm not telling you something you don't already know deep in your heart, deep in your cold, frozen heart. So, definitely, if you have even an inkling of this, of love for this film, definitely check out the musical if you haven't already. If you had a big bit of love for Frozen, you've already watched this. Tell your friends about it. Watch it with the kids. Watch it again just for that transformation. And just again, for me, it is not so much about the music, even though it's fantastic, or the performances. And by the way, Anna in this is, you know how Kristen Bell is. She's a little bit of a randy thing herself. She's not a thing. Okay, she's not a thing. I'm not saying she's a thing, but she's a bit of a randy person herself. And Anna in this one, played by come on, I closed the thing. Played by Laura Dawes. She's a little bit racier. There's a little bit. But it's silly. It's not sexy. She's really lonely. So how she expresses that is both a little bit more intense and she's met two guys in her life other than her father, and she falls in love with them both two within the span of maybe a couple days. And you know how it all works out by the second film. So yeah. And Olaf doesn't count. So, yeah. There's lots of reasons to enjoy this. If you don't agree, I can't imagine the reasons why. But, that's up to you. By the way, don't ever anybody tell you that you have to hate Frozen because it's so overdone, it's so overplayed, whatever. Yeah, yes, the song is overplayed. I get it. But don't ever let anybody tell you what brings you joy is a bad thing. As long as nobody's getting hurt, love it. Let's pick tomorrow's episode. 64. Just going up 20. 64. Okay. It's hot in here. I close the doors to the neighbor. I usually have airflow, but I don't want the neighbors to listen to me, do this for free. Not that anybody's paying for it anyway. This is a reality show that I'm going to watch one episode of grudgingly because if you don't know already, I hate reality shows. And that's probably not going to change after I watch this, but we'll find out. I don't know what this is really about. It's definitely playing off of the name of an actual scripted television comedy, but it is not that. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying when I tell you that we're watching Kim of Queens. Yeah. Not King of Queens. That would be interesting. I could watch an episode of King of Queens. But Kim of Queens is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.